put it in rice. Try it out. Yeah, that's weird. Okay. It's like stuck.
I think you got two of these open. So
Oh, okay.
that's
Yeah,
what it
you're right.
was.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, try that now.
Ta-da. Okay. So welcome, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Check. Now we got it. Okay. My name is Brianna Rubel, and I live in Jacksonville, just down the road. My son's name is Braylon. He is currently 13, and he was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. So prior to that, probably around 16 months, we had the classic regression, like he was saying words, doing all the things, and then one day he just stopped. Noticed a lot of repetitive behaviors, constantly sensory seeking. He would just run and run and run and run and run, and he'd be beet red, and he wouldn't stop, and you'd have to stop him and all the things. And I was completely clueless on autism at the time, no idea. And then I started watching YouTube videos, and I'm like, okay, like this is a thing. So in any case, we did all the things. He was in mainstream school up until he was, it was in 2020, so probably about 9, 10, 8, right around that time. And that's when he transitioned over to Hope Learning Academy. Prior to that, we had done speech, we had done OT, we had done ABA, we had done anything and everything under the sun that you could think of, trying to help, trying to get him to adapt to what he needed to do, and, just struggling with what is autism, right? So they said to say a few of my son's strengths. So, and I know that we have some people in here that know my son and can vouch for this. So I just like to say that my son is very smart, very creative. He can make anything out of Play-Doh, from Humpty Dumpty to castles to a crown to one time he took a long stick and made a bow and arrow. I'm like, where does this come from? Okay. So he's very much an artist. He loves to dance, and he has got rhythm, which he did not get from his mother. He is a strong swimmer. Been going off the diving board since he was probably about 6 years old, maybe. And he loves to dance. I already said that. Anyway, so fast forwarding, he was always very, what I like to call minimally verbal, 4 to 5 words here and there. Struggling, started having more behaviors at school, mainstream school, and so that's when we switched to the day program at Hope, which was fabulous. Great transition, best thing. As he continued to grow, his aggression started to get worse. He always had a habit of hitting, but then it turned into pinching and twisting, waking me up out of a dead sleep, pinching me, putting holes in the wall. The list goes on and on. Meltdowns. Then came the clothes stripping. So you couldn't take him anywhere. He was naked. So anyway, last year, over about the course of a year, I was approached by a Hope because I came to the school just covered in bruises. And they said, what do you think about trying residential? And I'm like, no, I'm not ready. No, I'm not ready. We had some run-ins with the law and some other things going on in regards to his aggression. And I said, you know what? Enough is enough. We need to do something now before somebody has to make a decision for me. So he transitioned into the residential program at Hope just this past October. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the best thing I ever could have done for my son. Sorry. He is thriving. He wears clothes without being told. His speech has just emerged. He's adapted. I see him every weekend. He started Special Olympics soccer and he loves it. And it's amazing. So in any case, I know that all parents, caregivers are at different places in their journey. You know, we have different levels of autism, the spectrum, you know, every kid is different. Not everyone is gonna have to go to those types of measures. But I guess the best advice that I could give a parent is to not be afraid to ask for help and not expect things to go exactly as you plan, because sometimes the things that you don't plan are going to be the best things. And that's all I got.
She pretty much just explained my son. No, I'm just kidding. My name's Cassie, and my son Elijah is now 20 years old. He was diagnosed at 3, and he lost his speech. He was stimming, flapping his hands, constantly trying to find water. There were a few times that I thought that my mom was afraid she was going to hear that scream, that scream of my child is gone. So he did the whole, started at 13, started to bite and pinch, and I had bruises all over my arms, and my sister called, it wasn't DCFS, it was like some kind of place to come check on me and make sure I was okay. And the lady that came, she was afraid to leave me alone. And if you saw Elijah today, he doesn't do those things. He does go back to those behaviors sometimes when he comes home. He does not sleep. I said I wasn't nervous to my friend, and I'm shaking now. Hope has been really good for him, and he's just very happy. He is very happy. He doesn't have as many meltdowns. The structure really helps him. It's hard to say, I'm not saying Elijah isn't good at anything. Elijah just has the attention span of a gnat. I'm just being honest. He's on one thing and on to the next thing, and it's really hard to get him to stay in one spot at the same time and get something done. But he loves music. I was telling her that my brother plays music, and we were at this festival, and Elijah just kept walking me around in circles, and I was getting really frustrated, and I thought, he's not even having fun, and he's not even listening to this music. And then the next day, he looked me right in the eye, and he goes, "Someone's knocking on the door, someone's ringing the bell." He sang the whole line of the song. And I was like, you were listening. So there are things he is listening. It's all in there. His words are all in there. Or last week, when we went to visit him, one of the workers said that he had come out of his bedroom naked. He loves to be naked. And he always has been. The first time was at JCPenney's. He was 4 years old, and I turned around, and this old lady's like, "Someone needs a spanking." I was like, but anyway, walked out of his room, and he said they said, "Get your clothes on, Elijah." And he said something to the effect of, it was like a whole sentence. It was like, "Hold on, wait a minute, I'm going in there, that's what I'm doing." But then he doesn't talk for hours upon hours, Or we went and got ice cream with him, and he said a few things, but it's not really conversation. So, but yeah, Elijah's he's good. He's gonna be happy. And my advice would be it doesn't matter what's wrong with your child. You're gonna love your child no matter what. So, my nephew's a little worried about his son, thinking he has a little bit of autism right now. I said, it's not gonna matter. We're gonna love him, and we're gonna do our best, and we're gonna advocate for whatever. So, and that's what we've done with Elijah. And I think that's all I have to say.
Oh, you go.
Hello. Okay, perfect. My name is Brittany. This is my husband, Corey. And we are from Pawnee, so pretty local here. And we have 2 kiddos on the spectrum. Our story looks a little bit differently than theirs, so we can't just repeat and kind of feed off of you guys. Our kiddos are both 5 years old and diagnosed at around age 2. We have Thomas and Axel. And we knew early on that Thomas specifically had some delays. With full transparency, they're both adopted and came into our home. Thomas a little bit later than Axel. Axel came in very, very early, and then Thomas a little bit later. Thomas came in, when he came in, he had lots of delays. When he came into our home, we knew very early on, global developmental delays. Medically complex, dual diagnosis, lots of concerns. And so we kind of knew from the word go that we needed to implement services. Even at 9 months old, we knew kind of that we were getting into a journey with him. For Axel, he was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, blue-eyed, blonde-haired little boy that was developing perfectly well up until about 18 months, where we started noticing, like, it was like a brick wall. Like, he plateaued. There wasn't a ton of regression necessarily, but all progress just stopped. Communication, self-regulation, all of the things just stopped at that point. So that's when pediatrician referred us to developmental specialists, and the diagnoses, multiple of them came from there. Also dual diagnosis for him. So for Thomas, I'll try to kind of differentiate them so they don't mesh together. We'll talk about one and then the other. Thomas is medically complex, global developmental delays. Communication is a huge, nonverbal, uses a communication device specifically to communicate. Early intervention services were initiated immediately in our home. When he came into our home, and that was huge. We felt like once that foot was in the door, it's kind of went from services to services to services to services as his life has progressed, which we've been really fortunate with those supports. So went from early intervention services, which included PT, OT, developmental therapy, speech. He had feeding therapy external to that, in combination with, once diagnosed at around 2.5, officially diagnosed around 2.5, because it took over a year to get in to the doctor to officially be diagnosed. We have to remember that. It wasn't that we didn't know, right? It was just to get in to get that official diagnosis. Then we were referred for ABA at that point. So ABA was initiated at that point, along with all of the other therapies. Then transitioned into pre-K with IEP supports at that point, along with ABA therapy as well, along with outside OT and speech and feeding therapy in combination still. I think what is really important to say, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, is what we've learned through this whole process is, like, not every service is right for every kiddo, and don't feel so pressured from recommendations that you have to have your child in absolutely everything, because autism burnout, both for yourself and for them, is so incredibly real. We have felt that. We've had to put them in things and then pull them back out of services because there was a level of burnout for both them and us that they weren't progressing. They weren't getting anything out of that service because of that burnout and that level of burnout for them. Okay, they were just being pushed too hard at their age. Maybe that's a good way to put it. So they want us to talk about, some of their strengths. So for Thomas, he is friendly, social, peer interactions. He's very attentive to detail and organization for him. So he could be sat and therapied all day long. He loves that one-on-one contact with people. He wants to be in your bubble. He doesn't want you in his bubble, but he wants to be in your bubble. Not on it, in it, okay? There's a difference. And he just loves that peer interaction. Sometimes to the point that it's an unhealthy interaction, so that's something that we've been working on, that he doesn't know a stranger and that it can be dangerous for him, unfortunately. So things that they've been just working on and progress towards goals is, our goal is to be in school and have school readiness with IEPs, and we're not where you guys have been yet with some of the things as far as school readiness and we may get to a point because there are behaviors and we have a lot of regulation and emotional regulation stuff that we work with. I think it's important that everybody is on their own journey, and we are very much at the beginning of our journey. And I think it's important for you guys to see and understand, the difference from across the table of, the beginning of a journey versus the end of a journey, and regardless, or not end, sorry, that's progress through a journey. Where services are looking different, and how things are implemented. I think towards the beginning, you just want to throw absolutely everything at them, right? And so that's what we've tried to do. I think through this, mainly, specifically with Thomas, one of our pieces of advice is that never assume doctors, nurses, professionals know your child. I noted here to ask for extra time at appointments if necessary and to communicate with them about your child. Don't assume that there's been communication between. So our Thomas specifically has about 14 different medical specialists that he sees at any given time. He has graduated from a few of them, but they don't necessarily communicate with each other, nor have they read the last notes or the last notes. The nurses, when they come and get you from the waiting room to do weights and things like that, they don't know. They don't know the kid that they're coming to get, right? If you've not been in that office before. And it's okay to ask them, let them know to slow down, that they're not going to respond well to that. When you make the appointments, to ask for extra time for them so they're not rushing you through that appointment. That has been huge because we have had to reschedule appointments that have been completely unsuccessful, and it's not the fault of the child. I can assure you of that. It's not the fault of the child that they were unsuccessful appointments. So just recommendations on that. I'm just going to keep talking, sorry. Our little Axel man, also diagnosed at 2.5, like I said, progressed really well up until about 18 months. He is completely opposite of his brother, and I told a fib earlier. I told my husband, I said, I'm nervous. He goes, it's because you've already lied. They're not twins. we just tell people they're 3 months apart, both adopted. It's like having twins. And so for most people, we just tell them we have twins because that's what, and I told that he said, I'm a horrible liar. So they're completely polar opposite of each other. He doesn't do great with social interactions. That was one of our huge major concerns at the beginning. Also very limited verbal communication, emotional regulation, and is an elopement risk. His energy levels are through the roof. He is our climber. He is our proprioceptive little guy. He is vestibular. He is our sensory-seeking king, for sure. You know, as his strengths, I noted that once you have earned his trust, that he is so loyal and full of love. And I think that with meeting now quite a few kiddos on the spectrum, I professionally also work with kiddos and provide advocacy for people with developmental delays as well, and intellectual delays, and meeting a lot of kiddos, I think that can be very true for a lot of them, that they are very loyal, and they love so hard, and our little Axel is just kind of a snippet picture of that. Likewise for him, early intervention services were initiated, then transitioned to pre-K services, ABA services, after he was diagnosed at 2.5, speech therapy, OT. He does not have the medical complexities that his brother does, but he is dual diagnosis as well with some other complexities, ADHD, sensory processing, which we know is in combination with the autism diagnosis, but definitely sensory processing as well. Some of the other services have been summer therapy camps that we've gotten them included in. So there's some local summer camps specifically that they've been enrolled in that have been really beneficial for them. We've done some holistic services for them as well that they have actually really, really enjoyed and been implemented for them. Some of that has been included, like cold light laser therapy. And if you've not looked into it, there is a local therapy service that provides that here in Springfield, so for a resource. And both of our boys really enjoyed that. Things that he's worked towards has been just really emotional regulation, safety for him is a huge one, and working towards school readiness with supports. Our advice really for them is expose them. You know, we have tried to expose our boys to a lot of things, even when it's been really hard, even when it's included meltdowns and sitting in the middle of the grocery store aisle with people. I had them in the bathroom stall with people knocking on the door recently because they thought I was whatever with my child in there who was having a complete hysterics. Sometimes it's not pretty, but they deserve to be out there and to get to do all the things that neurotypical kiddos get to do, because they can do it most of the time. They can do it, and they prove us wrong all the time. Sometimes they have those hard moments, and we get those hard moments, and then they can do the rest of it. Or we provide them with those supports. They've rode roller coasters in Branson. They've been to shows in Branson with supports. We take them to the beach and on vacations, and it doesn't always look pretty, but we've told ourselves from the get-go that we will never stop doing it, and we will never let the stairs stop us from letting our kids experience life. like sometimes, you know, you just want to hold a sign on your own back for advocacy for your own children. So our advice is just to continue to expose them. Some of the things recently that they, in resources, has been Special Olympics. They have a new program that starts for earlier kiddos. I don't know if anybody's aware of that, that is a new resource. So it's like 2 to 5-year-olds can now participate in Special Olympics in some districts. The CASE project, I know they're not here, but I did see their name tags out front, so I will drop their names. For adaptive sporting options, and it is local here to the Chatham area for those who are local here. And then special needs swim lessons at the Y for water safety, because we know that's a huge thing with our kiddos on the spectrum. So those are the resources. Thank you. I'll stop talking now.
Thank you. Yeah, no problem. Just go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, sorry I'm late. My name is Sean Willman, and I'm from Rochester, which is like 5 minutes that way. So I actually have 3 sons, an 8-year-old, a 4-year-old, and an 18-month-old, and the oldest 2 have diagnosis so far. The oldest one was diagnosed later, like around, I guess not super late, but like maybe 3.5. Actually, he was in early intervention, and then eventually his pediatrician thought that maybe if he gave him some more time, like, you know, he might catch up, and then he did not catch up. He wasn't speaking at all until we got to the autism clinic at Hope, and he was there for about a month and came out and said, "Hi, Mom." Yeah, it was wild. I wasn't expecting that, right? Like, he just came out and was like, "Hi," and I was like, wow. So he was only there for like 1.5 years-ish, and they were like, "Hey, he's ready to go." I guess like the PECS cards were successful, and so he ended up going into like pre-K, and then kindergarten he had OT, speech, DT, all of that stuff. And he is a completely different guy today in 2nd grade from what he was when he was at the clinic. That's not to say we don't still struggle. The emotional regulation is hard for us, but he went, you know, from not talking to like he doesn't even need to go down to the special ed room unless he feels like he needs a break. Sometimes I think he uses it as a crutch, but whatever. He really the only, like, when I tell people like, oh yeah, he went to the clinic, people are shocked. They were like, I guess they have like an idea that you should be able to tell if someone's like autistic right off the bat for everyone. And with John David, like a lot of them are like, wow, I had no idea. And that's great either way. We still struggle though, like with emotional regulation, the game rage, but a lot of kids like are bad at losing games and playing games. So that's like a little bit more masked, like for the age group. I wouldn't like point that out and be like, oh, he's autistic because he was mad that he lost, but it's what I notice. And it doesn't even have to be a competition, like the spelling bee for the class, he didn't make it to the end, and the next kid got their word right, and he said, "Unbelievable," and stormed out of the room. And I was like, oh my God, why would you do that? And I was like, how do you think that made that kid feel? And he was like, whatever. But that's also like being 8. So like I just try to remind myself that just other kids didn't storm out of the room, but they were probably still mad anyway. So just to preface, like you can't really tell that anything different is going on with him. The middle one, super delayed. I do think there's a genetic component between them, obviously. He started early intervention before he was even 2 because of his brother, and there was just he said mom and dad, and then at 9 months he just stopped doing anything. And so I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this again. And I had like a grieving period because I was like, why is this happening to us? Like, you know what I mean? And so I still can't really figure out, like, because they are very different. And my mistake was expecting their journeys to, like, I hate that word journey, but like to be the same, like their path, because so Holden, he's 4, he just turned 4. He has been going to the autism clinic way before JD's age. He was there, he was like maybe 2.5-ish. Like he was the littlest guy there. And he had been doing early intervention before that, but they had said like, we've done all we can do for him. And so he's been there since last January, so like a little under 1.5 years. But I really thought that like he was gonna come out like his brother did and be like, hey, hi. And he doesn't do that. And so that's something that I'm trying to get you to accept, that like maybe it's not going to be as successful for him as it is for JD. But he does use I know she had mentioned the talker device. He's been using that. They don't do the PEX cards anymore. That's what JD had. He doesn't love the talker. We have a really hard time getting him to use it at home. He does use it at the clinic because they're like, hey, use it or leave, right? Like you use it or like whatever. But so he does do it there. And it's really hard at home to get him to initiate using it because he does a lot of hand pulling, or he will bring things like you can't even anticipate his need because he brings it to you. Like, here's my chips, open them. So it's like, oh, you want chips? Okay. So I think maybe at the clinic, things are like more put away, so he like has to ask for them. I don't know. Anyway, so we're at like 1.5 years-ish, and he is finally mastering waving hello or goodbye without a prompt. For a long time, you would need to like tap his elbow or, you know, whatever. And he just mastered following a point and turning around when you say his name. So I know those don't sound like very big deals to, you know, most people, but I mean, he's 4, so he should be like, most 4-year-olds are like way beyond that. So obviously it's working, just in a different way than it was for his brother. Sorry, I got off track. What's the next question? You know what? I'll just talk about the middle one because the older one, like, he's good, right? He's on his way. He's no.
I can add some things to that in a minute. But
Oh, you can go ahead.
Well, no, it's just to say, you know, he's doing good as far as interventions and things like that, but the low support kiddos, I feel like that's where my son lands. I don't need to jump in your thing. But it's like, you know, I've had my family members say, he doesn't look autistic, you know, and so it's a little bit frustrating on the other end of things where it's just hard because he can slip through the system a lot. And I mean, he had a social worker that was amazing that worked with him in schools and stuff, but I just want to, like, I mean, he's not just like, check, you know, moving on, but just out of that, like, intensive, yeah, so, yeah.
I was just meant that my son that's currently in ABA, it was like why I was asked to come here. So, yeah. So, Holden, he, like she had said earlier, like the stranger danger and like all of that. He has no concept of danger whatsoever. At all. He was in feeding therapy. He had a tongue and lip tie that they like missed. So he was almost 2 when they like fixed that. I don't know if that's part of the feeding problem or if it was going to be that way always. And I think as far as now, he'll only eat our safe foods, our Pediasure vanilla only, Gerber puffs, and those yogurt melts for like the really little kids eat, and cheddar and sour cream Ruffles, and that's it. So I mean, I don't blame him like for the Ruffles, like those are really good. The Pediasure, like, it's not my thing, but and he'll drink like so many of those, like that's like his main source of food. So we have ABA going on right now. My ultimate goal is for him to be able to go to school. Rochester has a great special education program. Obviously, like my older son is thriving. He does like 5th grade math in the 2nd grade. Like he adds he's just like very academically like a Rain Man. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, he does math without needing the paper, and they like want him to do like junior high math, and he's 8. And it, like, I can't like fathom that, right? Because I need a calculator. But so my goal is like for Holden to be able to, join his brother there and be able to do. And like my older son had a lot of like social. He used to talk really close to the kids' faces and just other stuff that the other kids didn't really understand. Like, they're just like, why is he the way that he is, And he's, I don't want to say grown out of that, but like he's adapted to his environment and noticed. Like, he's learned how to pick up social cues. He didn't have any of that. Like when he was Holden's like 4 or 5 or even 6, he didn't have that at all. So now at 8, he, like you said, like a low needs. But he used to be very high needs. So it's just like amazing to see the transformation that the clinic did for him. And so I'm hopeful that it will be the same for my middle son. My youngest son is 18 months old, and they just put him in speech only. He does say like about 10 words, which I thought was like really advanced. Apparently they want you to say like 20 to 50 words at 18 months. And I was like, oh, he says mom and dad. But I've also never had a child that like met their goal before. That sounds terrible. I don't mean for it to sound the way it is. I'm just like, oh, what? No, he's talking. This is great. Like, and they were like, no. So, so he just started speech, and he points. He does pretty much the opposite of everything that the older 2 did. The older 2 didn't point. They didn't do any basic things. They didn't answer to their name. So I'm hoping that maybe like he just needs a little push with the talking, but that maybe whatever for his brothers is missing for him, and so he won't need that help. Just because, I don't want them, nobody wants their kids' lives to be hard or wants them to be like different and in a negative, like people will see it negatively. So I just hope that will be, but the clinic has really, it's great. And if that were the path that he had to take, we would obviously go there again 1,000,000 times. Now that I've had 2 kids going there. So, yeah, I think is there anything else that I missed? It's okay to like be sad about how your life looks different. I even am still sad about, JD, like people don't notice, unless I tell them. But I see his friends are playing like baseball and soccer, And he really can't do that because he flips out. He can't handle it. He can't handle losing, and he can't handle, there being rules. And so it's just a little bit, we tried soccer, t-ball, basketball, and flag football, and they all went very horribly. So it's okay if you don't like see if it doesn't end up being like how you imagine. Like I was like, oh, 3 boys. Okay, well, we're gonna have like a lot of sports, right? Because my husband loves sports. But JD wants to like be a mathematician. So, and that's cool. I just like didn't like see that because like I'm just a regular math person. So, yeah, like just, it's okay to be sad. Like I'm sad a little bit. When I see his friends going and they're playing baseball and they're really into it and I'm into it for them, I'm like, hey, let's go. Like he'll go to their games and cheer for them. Like he's a great sport, like when it's not him that's winning or losing. And he loves to call people cheaters. It's just like a whole, like you're cheating or like you started before the whistle blew, like this whole thing. And it's just like not worth it. But I wish that like somebody had told me like, hey, like don't feel bad, like that you're not doing the same things because it's not that big of a deal, but you have to like accept it for yourself. And I'm still accepting it. Like I think I will as like every stage. And also because I'm doing it twice now. Like I thought I was done and then like I'm kind of like starting over. So I know that's easier said than done because people compare whether they want to or not, not purposefully comparing, but they just do. So, or like the talking, like I see a lot of the other kids at the clinic talk and Holden does not. And I'm wondering, they're all doing the same thing. So why is that not working for him? And also like, will he ever talk? Is a really big one. I know, like, not to be like political at all, but about all the things about autism in the news. I saw a lot of like really awful things posted, and I kind of like had just like started sobbing, and my husband was like, "Oh my God, like, what's wrong with you?" And I'm like, like, what if I'm never able to talk? What if I'm never able to talk to my child? Like, what is that gonna be like? Is he gonna be like 30 years old and like he has to use the iPad? And like, what if I die? Like, who's going to like take care of him? And I mean, he has brothers, but like, whatever. It's just a lot. So like, it's okay to like feel like it's a lot. Yeah, I'm just a realist. Sorry, it is what it is. So, but you're doing a great job. So.
Thank you. You're great. You're great. Yeah, and I agree. Like it's so hard to not compare, and even with the siblings between each other, and really difficult to just be able to see where your child's at, no matter if even like a neurotypical kid, right? We have to see each kid as who they are and not compare them to other kids. And then also, just being able to find out, what their dreams are, because we always have like an idea of what our kids are gonna be like, or, like sports. And I'm kind of the same way. Like I'm, all about being in sports and being athletic, and I definitely have 2 kids. I was talking about my daughter earlier that was in 8th grade before she could ride a bike. That was a long wait, and another kid is never going to be able to ride a bike, So I think it's important to measure the successes our kids do have, though. And that's something that I've had to learn. For my kids, I have 4 kids. My 3rd is on the spectrum, and my first and my oldest is 28. My youngest is 16. They're both like overachievers that are, just superstars. And then the 2 middle kids are just like whatever. They don't care about grades or expectations or whatnot. So very ADHDers, kind of making their own way. So I definitely, have learned to just accept each one of them as who they are. And my son was diagnosed late in third grade, and he started out he talked faster than my other kids. He was more coordinated and walked faster than the other kids. So nothing ever really gave me like a direct like, oh, maybe he's has autism. He just didn't really connect with other kids well in preschool. When it was like story time and all the kids were on one rug, the teacher had a little welcome mat that he sat on, and we didn't even think anything of it. We just thought, that's Lucas, and he's got his own ways. And so it kind of took until, like third grade before he was like kind of threatened with suspension for making somebody cry because of something that he said to them. And, so I went and got him tested, and I learned very quickly that it was going to be up to me to advocate for him. The school, I always just thought, oh, once we take him to school, they'll figure out what's going on, and they'll do all the tests, and they'll give him all the services. And he's highly gifted, but his school isn't prepared for anything other than, really helping him academically. All the other stuff was really on me, and he didn't qualify for any kind of special education, even speech. I think the speech teacher said he could have written the book on speech etiquette, but he could not do it. He knows all the rules, but he cannot apply them, right? So he struggled in school, and then finally his junior year, he dropped out and took his GED a few weeks later and got his diploma, and now he's at Lincoln Land. So low support kind of guy, but definitely does need supports. He has high anxiety and ADHD and autism, so he was just sharing with me recently, he had never been able to get on meds for the ADHD or the anxiety until recently, and he just shared with me that, his anxiety is to the point that he can't go outside without his hoodie on, the same hoodie every day, So, so he's like, I think I need to get on some medication. So I'm proud of him, for having some introspection with that. But it's just like tricky all the time because he just seems like your normal average guy, and then really has some struggles and needs that support. So but he's getting through. He's getting through. So. Definitely like the full gamut of different experiences, I think, and I think that autism is it's a spectrum, it's diverse, and so we have very, very different experiences even through sibling to sibling. So let me see. I think we're going to open up for any questions that anyone has.
Consider homeschooling your children? I mean, I know that your son's 20.
So I'm going to repeat back your questions too, since we have our virtual. It's okay. So she was just asking, would anyone have considered homeschooling their children? So
And you don't have any time.
and make sure
My son will not sit still at all. And so he has to, and also I wish he would use a device to communicate, but he refuses. He shuts it off. And he hands it to his teacher, and he doesn't tell his teacher to take it back, but he gives it to his teacher. He's not going to communicate that way with me. He doesn't ever talk, but if I would try to get him to even color whenever he was a little boy, he would say, "We are not coloring." So it was impossible. We tried everything with Elijah. As far as because I was in the era where we all thought it was vaccines. And so I put him on the special diet. And then, I would try to sit him down and play with him, like the get him to pretend play, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't even open a present. He's very autistic. Elijah is just very, very autistic. He's never had a conversation. He doesn't talk back to you like how I'm talking to you. So it'd be impossible for me to teach him.
In regards to homeschooling, I can say that we kind of had that experience just because of COVID. COVID hit right at the time that Braylon transitioned into Hope. So he literally, I think, was there for maybe a few months before, guess what, everything was shut down. And boy, was that fun. So they sent home, Hope was very good at providing the resources that they could, because obviously they went longer not having children in person, because not only did they have children with intellectual disabilities, but also these, immunocompromised children, things like that. So, we're not going back until XYZ. And my head was about ready to spin off. I'm like, you gotta oh. But anyway, we had packets of homework, things to try to do with him. And of course, as a single parent, I was working full-time, working some from home, so it was very interesting to say the least. But one thing that was really cool is we also had a speech therapist that was virtual. I cannot remember now the state that she was in, but she was fabulous. Yuki, I think her name was. I don't know if you guys remember Yuki. She was great. She worked great with Bray. As a matter of fact, we still use some, if you ever hear him, if he drops something and he goes woofy, we got that from Yuki. But anyway, I could see where maybe it would be appropriate for some kids. I can relate to you also with Elijah and the fact that Braylon's attention span, he needs so much support and so much redirection. We've done so many different medications. He would have one-on-one aides at school. And I think it's safe to say for most kids and their mothers, they're always quote unquote worse with your mom. So it's always been really difficult for me to get him to stay on task. I will say it's a lot better now than it was then. But it was interesting times trying to, I would set a timer. I would say, okay, we're doing homework now the times when I was working from home, and you're gonna do these papers, which it was a lot of tracing and stuff like that, or numbered things, whatnot, and we just would do the best that we could do. So I hope that answers it a little bit. In the back? Oh, I am so sorry.
Did just to feed off of you're always better with others than with your mom, just a little bit. I know with the homeschooling, because we have considered that previously, or what if we get to, because we both work full-time at this point, my husband and I do, just because we have been fortunate with supports up until this point. And so we've tried to look ahead to structure our family of what if we get to a point where they can't be in mainstream school, what do we need to do? What if we, wouldn't have a daycare backup, or what if we would need to stay home with them and homeschool or something like that? And I can say that autism masking is very real. They both do very well in the classroom for the teachers and for their aides and the paras, and listening, sitting, following directions for the most part. And then oftentimes when they get home, night times are just breaking down and coming apart because they have built that up all day long. And then home is their safe space. Home is their safe space where they can unleash all of that energy that they've had all day. And so we don't foresee that homeschooling would ever be an option. It would not be a productive environment at home for them.
I think it's safe to say that we could all probably say that all of us, our home is our safe space, and we get home and we take off our pants and we eat what we want to eat and do what we want, and have a breakdown. And so same for kids. But I mean, I could see where, if some people could make it work, it may be the better situation. But myself personally,
That's just
I don't
their
know that we made a whole
experience.
lot of progress.
Yeah, no, I'm not stealing it. I just wanted to add, just that for me, I felt like it was also important for my son to have to practice his social skills and get out there. And I didn't want him to just get too comfortable at home with a video game or computers and not have those social opportunities. So definitely, I homeschooled my oldest. But for my son with autism, I just felt like it was really important to help him, and he also had supports at school that were different than at home, but that's just what I wanted to add, is just also that, I mean, as much as we also need a little bit of support and breaks, but it's also, I think, good for the kids to be around other kids and have those opportunities as well.
Any suggestions for when we're trying to introduce all of these different acronyms and AAC, strong language processing, like what's the best approach because you're already getting so much or going down Google rabbit hole, like is there a way to kind of go about getting you all this resource and if that makes sense? So, as in getting the resources to the parents to help the children at home, is that what you mean? Yeah, like I've done like handouts and
Yeah.
but it's different when you're actually using the device and seeing you model it and just different things like that. I think that definitely maybe do you work in like a clinic setting or a school? Nice. I almost feel like to answer that, I think that's going to be individual to each parent because everybody's going to learn differently. Myself, you give me a piece of paper and you might as well make an airplane out of it because I don't retain information that way. I can tell you that going to college, I would barely read a whole book because I don't retain information that way. But if we're going to sit here and have a conversation and we initiate what we're talking about and we model that, then that's going to work better for me. So I really think that as a therapist, it's important to really focus on that particular student or parent and say, what is going to work best for you, rather than have a cookie cutter, here's your handouts, here's my email, let me know if you have questions or vice versa. And some people may be like, you don't need to tell me all this, like I can read this and I have a picture memory, right? So, I hope so.
I don't have a question, but I was gonna point out, you guys were all talking about, environmental differences. We work in the setting, I worked in the homes and the school and then as a Q. And I know two of the boys that are up there for a very long time with Elijah. And it is, parents, we go through situations where the parents are very emotional about feeling guilty for sending their kid to us. And then it's like how it didn't work for them at home, but works for here. What did they do wrong? It's completely different environments, like you said. It's very structured here. It's not that you can't be structured. We have thousands of supports with us. You don't have that at home.
Plus, we have different people on different shifts that trade off, and you guys are just one person.
Well, all I could do when I had Elijah, I was by myself in my little apartment, and I sat in this chair and just stared at the door for hours upon hours because all he wanted to do was get out naked and be naked. And I had to tell all the tenants, the apartment, I'm like, lock your door. He's going to get in your house naked and get in your refrigerator. That's all he cared about. Yeah, he wants to know what's in the refrigerator, and he's going to take your ice cream.
I've been saying that for years. I will just add to what you were saying about, the grief, the guilt, et cetera, for parents. Carl knows from experience. How many times did I bawl on the phone between you and Rebecca because it was the hardest decision I ever had to make in my life. And I'll tell you what, probably I'd say maybe like a week after Braylon was there, I came to the school for something. I think I was dropping something off. And the secretary gal, I can't think of her name, let me tell you, she came up to me and she's like, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm lost." And she just hugged me. And she said, "I've watched you come in here and you try and you try and you try. And now you've got a whole team. And let me tell you what, because that's what I do is I cry, but I mean, I left there feeling like $1 million. Like God was speaking, sorry if anyone's not religious, but I'm like, God was speaking through her, not to be political, not to be religious, but anyway, like I just left there feeling like this is a good thing, and it just kept revealing itself. So I don't know who all in here is parents, caregivers, staff, but I think everything is just so individualized to everybody. And
Well, like she was saying, kids are not coming doing the same thing in the same path.
and
Like, obviously,
yeah,
you guys both have very similar
yes,
behaviors.
which yes, I very much commend parents that have more than one with extra needs. My hat's off to you, because I couldn't imagine juggling two with different extra special needs, although I couldn't imagine what to do with a neurotypical kid either. So, but
We have a neurotypical teenager too, and we don't know what to do with them.
yeah, right.
We can talk about our 5-year-olds all day long, but we have no idea how to raise a teenager who's neurotypical, so don't feel bad. I think just to add a little bit to the previous question, I think we have overwhelmed ourselves a little bit with trainings and things as well, but Hope is really, really good at doing evening sessions with education that you can throw on in the background in the evenings, and we've taken a lot out of those trainings to sign up for. And I know she left, the SLP who was here to ask that question, she had left, but that resource to pass on to parents and stuff, to just throw it on. If you can auditory listen in the background and get some information, we've gotten a lot of information and resources out of that, and just kind of overloaded yourself or ourselves with that information of acronyms and things. No, oh no, yeah, no, we.
I know you're in a time crunch.
Yeah.
I'm dying to ask this question. Do you feel like, some of you have younger kids, you have grown kids, do you feel like you know everything about autism and don't get to learn anymore?
No, I will never stop learning. Never. I'll never.
No.
Send me that affirmation. I feel like I will
No.
never stop learning.
Every day is something new.
I've been listening to podcasts, and my job is to teach people about autism, so I'm constantly learning, and it's every day I feel like my mind is. No, it's fine. Yeah, every day I feel like, it's a huge mind shift to also constantly learning and understanding and thinking about things differently. So yeah, and there's just always, and a lot of times I feel bad because I didn't know things when my son was younger. I learned this whole new thing. I could have been helping him with this, and his executive functioning is crap. And I should have had a very strong structure for him, but the schools were telling me to let him be more independent, and figure things out on his own. And I try to take it easy. One day at a time. But there's always a lot to learn.
We thought Cracker Barrel was Elijah's favorite restaurant, and we took him there for 2 years every time we'd come to Springfield. And we get up to the door one day, and he goes, "We always effing go here." Yeah, it's all in there. He just doesn't, but he cusses, and I'm like, where's this coming from? I'm looking at his people working with him. I'm like, what are you saying whenever I'm not here?
That would be a lovely housemate.
Never. I was like, it's always my kid. Yeah, it was him.
Now we go to Steak and Shake. He really just wants ice cream. We learned that. He really just wants ice cream. Yes.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. You were so informative. Thank you. And you were so great last Friday at Trinity.
Oh, good.
You were so helpful.
We're working on scheduling some more stuff for the fall.
You don't know how much you help the teachers.
Good.
Did you get a sense of that? Because, man,
Yes.
I did.
You know, the main feedback I got was we didn't have enough time.
No.
So that's always good feedback. It's like,
I mean, I'll talk
yeah,
about it.
we need more time and we need more information, and that's what you want from teachers. You want them to be hungry for information and not feeling like, oh, I already know autism, check, moving on to another topic, right?
Yes,
So,
thank you so much.
yeah, for sure. Thank you guys.